Hello guys, this is JayKay Talk, episode 1. Today we're going to be talking about what this time during the quarantine can bring you. You know what I mean? Talking about discipline, responsibility, growth, things that are, I think, a good thing to focus on during this time. So, let's get into it. So I wanted to actually talk to you today kind of about what I've been seeing kind of like on Instagram, just on like social media, like in general. It just seems like a lot of people are freaking out over not having control, is what I've noticed.
There's definitely a lot of fear.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with this, we can all really kind of take a step back and learn to not be in control and to recognize what you can have control over and what you can't have control over. You know what I mean? I think not having control and people who tend to be a bit more controlling, that can cause a lot of anxiety for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a really important lesson for them to learn. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the times in life, things will happen that are out of your control, and you have to take them in stride and take them for what the lesson is.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if something is making us feel powerless, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to feel defeated or we have to fail or accept failure. I think powerless teaches us a really valid lesson of what we need to be working on, where we need to be setting boundaries, and where we need to be empowering ourselves. So if we're feeling like the quarantine and this pandemic as a whole and the things that are happening as a result of the pandemic are making us feel powerless, that's a good indicator that we need to not expect the pandemic to fix itself, because that's unrealistic, or not expect the government to make everything go away, because obviously that is unrealistic as well, because the amount of destruction that's occurring on a global scale is going to take a very long time to fix. And I think that's something we're all aware of, that, you know, this could take up to a year or two to really get our society back to where we want it.
Back to originally where we were at before. You know what I mean? Where this didn't even seem like really a threat to us. You know what I mean? We were all very, I want to say ignorant might be like the right word to this idea of not even being able to touch like our loved ones, or to be very apprehensive of going places and actually doing things. I think this will bring a lot of light and awareness towards how much freedom we truly had before and how much we actually took for granted. To have a lot more gratitude for things in which just going out to a restaurant, you know what I mean? Just being able just to walk outside and seeing your neighbors, or just things that seem so tiny and small, but and now we look at it and we see how much of an impact that even has on us as individuals. So
sure, you know, when those little moments of joy are kind of taken from us, it's extremely depressing, right? We kind of feel like that these few things that really brought us the happiness we've always wanted have now been stripped from us, and we're kind of feeling like, well, now what? If everything that I loved is gone now, right? Where do I go from here? I guess inward, right? No, nowhere else to go. So
you would almost say, like, in your words, I've even heard you say this, and correct me if I'm wrong, where it's the things you used to identify with now are kind of being brought down. Your ego, in a sense, is kind of being destroyed, and so now you kind of you have to rebuild. You have to create. You have to, in a sense, die in order to be reborn.
Absolutely. Ego deaths are happening like everywhere. You know, like you said beautifully, like everything we once identified with is now being totally reformed and restructured. We're finding we have no identity now, right? The loss of our job, which many people identify with, the loss of money, which can make us feel powerful.
Yeah.
That's taken from us. So now everything we identified with is like slipping from our fingertips, and so now we're forced to reform, to reinvent the ego, to kind of get rid of the false identity in replacement of a brand new one, a more healthier one, right? Because death isn't inherently bad. Death is transformative, and transformation can be painful, right? Giving birth is painful, but it's not bad. right? Something beautiful, new life comes out of
the start of something new,
right?
Yeah,
Birth is an incredible thing, but it's painful.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a rebirth occurring.
I think a lot of the time within this quarantine, people have been looking at this as like a negative thing, and that's not to take away from people who have families and who honestly do have responsibilities to take care of other people. You know what I mean? Especially younger kids and stuff like that. But also recognize that this is a time in which, if you ever had something you wanted to do with your life, if you ever had any goals or any ideas or anything, and you have the time now, this is the time to do it. This is the time to write down your notebook, your goals, write down your notebook, your values, write down what you want out of this life. Definitely. More than anything, when in society have we ever all just halted and stopped and honestly were able to look at ourselves and go, do I want to be doing what I'm doing with my life? And I think for the people who can do that, should honestly take that opportunity, because I don't think everybody can. I think there are a lot of people who can't think for themselves because they have little kids, who not only have responsibilities of their own but also for others too. So I think the people who don't have responsibilities like that even need to take more action, because they have the opportunity now that I think so many people would love to have.
So what you're saying, this is almost like a blessing, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
To have all of this free time just readily available.
Yes. Yeah. And you can't do anything.
I agree.
You know what I mean? You can go outside, but you can't go anywhere. You can't run away from maybe whatever you've been running from procrastinating. You know what I mean? That's the one thing I've learned throughout this quarantine, is that holy shit, am I a procrastinator? I will do everything the last minute, and I won't strategize, and I won't think it out, and I won't do things, but if this thing has taught me anything, it's that strategizing and think about what you're going to do right before you do it and putting it into action has helped me so much.
Yeah.
Dealing with stuff that you almost felt like you didn't have time with before, but now you do. You know what I mean? Just thoughts and everything and emotions, and it's a really good time to reflect and think about all the time that you have spent just, I don't want to say go on autopilot, but consciously just push yourself through, because now we've even talked about how a lot of the unconscious mind is sort of coming up now. These unconscious feelings, these unconscious thoughts are really starting to come to the forefront and really starting to make their way, because people don't have anything else to do. People are stuck inside their houses with only their thoughts. You know?
Absolutely. And something that I'd love to just like go off of that with is how you said, you know, things in our unconscious mind are being brought to our conscious mind. Oh my God. Well, like, as you know, I'm really big into dream interpretation.
Yes, yeah.
Right? So the big thing I've been seeing on social media and in the spiritual community and other communities is like everyone's having nightmares.
Yep.
All of a sudden, people that weren't dreaming are dreaming like crazy.
Yep.
So that, you know, makes us wonder, like, what's the connection between this pandemic and our dream activity? And you're absolutely right. What you said validates that. And our unconscious mind is where our dreams kind of happen and occur. So now that we're forced to be inside, all of a sudden we can't escape anymore, like you said. And you're right, autopilot was a great way to say it too, because that's exactly what people do, right? When they're in a job they're not happy with, and they're pushing through that unhappiness that they feel in their bodies. I mean, you cannot deny that unhappiness for very long before it just eats you up.
Jim Carrey has a great quote where he goes, depression is like your avatar saying I'm tired. You know what I mean? It's like saying like I'm tired of of me identifying with the life that I am living. You know what I mean? And if you are feeling this way, in a sense, if you're tired of I guess in a sense who you are, and you want to rebuild yourself and create a better life for yourself, this is the time. Yeah. You have nothing but time right now on your side, you know?
And I think it's important to note too that, like, although we have all this time, we could spend this time really poorly. Right?
Oh my God! Yes,
we could take this time and sleep it away. We could play video games all day. We could stay on Instagram, constantly getting those hits, right? That like, oh, I gotta like. Or we can really face the unhappiness, the genuine discomfort that we feel in our bodies, that we've been powering through at work and at social functions and at friends' houses. We can finally now sit here in a safe space, which is our homes. Like, we should feel safe in our homes, right? Or our bedrooms, even just a sanctuary.
Even with like your partners, you know what I mean? I feel like I've seen that a lot too, where I enjoy Instagram memes, and I think a lot of people do, but I see a lot of these things where it's a lot of people making fun of their significant others in like a sense of like of like making memes like about it, in which it just doesn't sound like they're communicating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're stuck in a quarantine with someone and you can't communicate everything that you have to say, then maybe you guys should check yourself a little bit. Maybe you guys should honestly ask, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Because more than anything, if you aren't communicating honestly, you're gonna really have a block. You know what I mean? You guys are not gonna feel as connected as you could be. If you guys, and you know what I mean? And I think more than anything, the thing you should feel is uncomfortable. I think the idea of struggling is a great thing to do, you know, because I think when you struggle, you're actually learning more about yourself. We've had conversations even too where it's been super duper uncomfortable, but we've recognized, holy crap, this is a really uncomfortable conversation, but we need to push through it.
Absolutely.
We need to look at ourselves and go, if we want to grow here as a relationship, we need to push. We need to grow, and we need to push, and we need to keep going.
You're so right.
So
every one of those conversations, I personally gained something from.
Absolutely.
All of those uncomfortable conversations, it was like I would realize things about myself where it was like, you know what? I care about my partner. My partner's happiness means a lot to me, but my own happiness means a lot to me, right? And if my partner's telling me like they're not happy, right? Well, maybe I shouldn't be so quick to be like, well, that's your problem, right? Maybe if I really care about you, I should ask myself, and I did, right? I asked myself, like, well, what can I be doing to show up better for you? Because I know that our relationship, obviously not, we can't speak for all relationships, right? But I know ours is built on respect.
Yes.
And so I know by me building myself up, that I can feel safe to do that, because I know obviously that won't be taken advantage of, right? Like we grow together. And I think maybe the problem is too, is there could be a lot of people during this quarantine in unhealthy relationships.
Absolutely.
Where they don't feel safe to do that with their partner, where they might be thinking to themselves, one conversation about our unhealthy behaviors is going to be the end of us.
Yeah, and that's not okay. You know what I mean?
No.
If you honestly feel that way, you got to check yourself a little bit. You honestly do, you know? It's
people are scared, right? Because the one thing, and I empathize, right? The one thing that this pandemic, I think, is also forcing us to look at is how alone we really are in the grand scheme of life. How we are only responsible for ourselves and our children, you know, up to a certain point. But other than that, no one's going to take care of us.
No.
We have to take care of ourselves. I think when people are stuck in unhealthy relationship dynamics and they are scared to speak their truth around their partner because deep down they know, and you even said this earlier when you and I were talking in the car, people know inherently when something is not right or good for them.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And I think, like, I've been in relationships where I know it's not good for me.
Yep.
Right? But we don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
So we sacrifice ourselves. But the thing that quarantine has to offer is we do have this opportunity to face how alone we really feel.
Yeah.
We do have the opportunity to face the relationships in which we're really not compatible with the person we're with.
Yeah.
And the benefit that serves is we can do that all right now without any demands from work or life. We can just sit at home, which again, I'm going to really enforce this, that our home should be our sanctuary. And if our home's not our sanctuary, we need to find a way to make it a sanctuary. Get a place outside or in our bedroom or in the basement where we can do that work.
I think a beautiful way to even do that would be asking yourself, first of all, because more than anything, I think as much as we can talk about relationships, I think you really, the best thing you can work on is yourself more than anything.
Yes.
And I think you need to ask yourself, what are your values? And if you need to, if you can think of them in your head and honestly remember them and evaluate them, then absolutely. For me, I need to write them down. To honestly look at them and really check them out and really critique them and figure out if these are truly my core values. And usually you can, everybody has sort of an intuitive, instinctual instinct. I know I used that word twice, but to really hone in and really find a connection within your values and see if they align with you, and see if your values align with the life you're trying to make, like I said earlier. But also, I think a big thing is if your values align with the person you're spending a lot of your time with. You know what I mean? Because if you have two completely different ends of the spectrum, and when it comes to values, that's gonna help you understand the person you're with a lot more, along with them understanding you. You know what I mean? I think it's gonna bring a whole new level of understanding, and I think sometimes we like to look in a way of good and bad, but I think it's just more honesty. You know what I mean? When you look at a person's values, you start to just get them more, not in a bad way and not in a good way. Because when they don't maybe align, that's not a bad thing. That just might mean that you guys aren't right for each other. Maybe that means that you guys have some shit to work on. You know what I mean? It might mean that too. But I think it brings in a lot more awareness more than anything.
Yeah,
and I think that's the most important thing to kind of do. And I think bringing awareness to yourself too is also a very important thing to do during this quarantine.
So would you recommend that people take this time to get really certain with their values?
Yes.
And then maybe if they're in a partnership, would you recommend that they kind of have a discussion with their partner about their individual values and see if they line up or where they stand?
Yeah, I would say so. I would agree with that statement more than anything. I think too, when you look at your values, I think that's a level of responsibility. I think if you have values, right, that's almost like a standard you're setting. You know what I mean? I think those kind of go side and side. When you go, all right, definitely. Here are my values, and here's the standard I am putting myself at. Right. And if you don't align with those values, then you're not taking on the responsibility that you should be.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think responsibility is a very important thing in life. And we even talked about this earlier, too. On how a lot of the time when people growing up, they tend to look for others when it comes to responsibility instead of themselves.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that...
because I think, right, when we're children, that's what we do. Yeah. And then we grow up, but we don't.
Yeah. So
we're still looking for mom and dad to take that responsibility, right?
I think a lot of the time, too, we've even talked about this. People are scared to take that first step. People are scared to look at themselves and go, can I handle this? You know what I mean? Instead of just going out there and doing it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I don't know if they feel as though they have the tools to do something like that. You know what I mean? That's what happened with me a lot of the time. I felt as if I wasn't capable in myself enough to honestly take on the responsibilities. But I also recognize, too, is that, all right, if I'm not capable enough, but I try, at least I try and I figured out, okay, I know what I can do and I know what I need to work on. Yeah, I mean, that's where we kind of come back to these lessons. You learn these lessons through failure. You know what I mean? Don't look at failure as such a negative thing. Look at it and go, here's what I have learned from this experience and here's what I can take from it next time. And keep going.
Failure is a valuable teacher, isn't it?
Oh, 100%.
Where we can choose to totally be engulfed by failure and allow it to have this like power over us, right? Or we can just like use it as a teacher, as something to help us grow, right? To kind of be like, yeah, I failed here. Okay, so what? Now where do I go from here? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Definitely. And Jason, you know, like obviously I see your growth and like it's incredible because I know like I'm not going to speak directly on your experience, but I'm going to speak more in an objective and relatable sense where life can really beat us down. Like we can have friends and family that totally make us question our worth. Yeah. You know, tell us like, you can't do it. You're not capable. You know, you're never going to be able to amount to anything. You're not going to be able to do that. Let me do it. Right. And we're constantly going through these power interactions where people are just
taking your power away.
People are taking our power away. Absolutely. And so when we get older, it's like, I don't, you know, right? You don't want that anymore.
I was reading this book called Educated, right? It's by Tara Westover, I think. She's a really good writer. She's got an interesting story, and she said an interesting sentence, and I don't know if I can remember it verbatim, but I can remember it pretty close. She goes, "It's funny how the people we love most, we tend to give the most power to." You know what I mean? God, and I think that's really in that shows and reflects in this conversation even how a lot of the time we give power to people around us who aren't, it isn't their life, it's ours. And we need to recognize that too, that just because a person shares their opinion or believes something in that doesn't mean that you have to do it. At the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you because you're living your life. Absolutely. Nobody else is living this for you. When you go home at night, when you go to sleep, they're not right next to you. You know what I mean? You're in your own head. You're sleeping. You're in your own thoughts. More than anything, at the end of the day, if you're not being comfortable within yourself, and when you say home, when you say sanctuary, right? I think absolutely your own home, but I think your own home in your mind too. That has to be more of your sanctuary than anything. Because if you're not comfortable in your
making
own,
peace with your mind, just making your mind a safe place to be in. Oh, I love that.
If you're if you're appeasing others, you're never gonna feel comfortable with yourself. You know what I mean? And then right then and there, your sanctuary is being disrupted.
Oh my God, yeah.
Boundaries has been an important part of this too, but if you do things for yourself and you set boundaries and you say what you need to say, then I think at the end of the day you're gonna feel a lot better in your own home. You're gonna feel a lot better when you go to bed at night going, I did what was best for me today.
Totally.
So
and I love that like symbolism of like, you know, your mind being your home and boundaries kind of is a way to allow people into your home or not, right? Like we don't let people walk in and out of our front door willy-nilly, right? Like we got locks on the door.
Absolutely.
That's a boundary. It's like, this is not your home, this is my home. I'll be damned if you're gonna walk into my house, right?
Absolutely.
Unless you got rent money.
Yeah, no.
But it's like absolutely like setting boundaries in our relationships is a way to like let people know this is how my sanctuary is going to be treated.
Yes.
And if you can't respect that, then I'm not going to let you into my home.
Yeah.
Right? If someone is standing outside your door and saying, hey, let me in or I'm going to kill you. It's like, no, I'm calling the cops.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not going to let you in now.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. You need to show manners at the door.
Yeah.
Convince me that you're going to be a welcomed and respected guest in my home.
Absolutely.
Totally.
And I think a lot of the time what happens too is that we look at titles a lot of the time for people in which that we should let in. You know what I mean? When we look at brothers, sisters, best friends, parents, we think of these people as people who are
entitled to our home.
Yes, who are entitled to what our decision making should be. When in actuality they are just that. They're separate entities from you. They are completely different. You know what I'm saying? They walk a different path than you always will.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Just because they had an experience with that doesn't mean you should either. You should look if they share their experience, okay, you have more knowledge than you did before, but it's not your own experience.
That's true.
You know what I mean? You need to define your own experience. You can't live vicariously through other experiences.
Right.
So
or expect them to live the experiences for you.
Yes, you know what I mean?
We're responsible for living the experiences we want to live.
Absolutely. And I think even with that is like that comes with setting boundaries again too. You know what I mean?
Even with family,
yes,
you're saying.
Absolutely. That's setting boundaries with everybody. You know what I mean? It's like
a lot of people let their mom and dad walk in and out of their house though, right?
100%.
But you ever hear like a mom coming in and like redecorating the home, right?
Yep.
And then like a grown man or woman comes back home and they're like, Mom, were you in my house? And like, yeah, I noticed you needed, this, and I figured I would, change your sheets for you and stuff. And it's like, there's this conflict that happens because it's like, okay, I mean, that's nice.
Yes.
Right? It's a nice gesture, but it's also like, maybe I liked my sheets the way they were. Right? Did anyone ask me if I liked my sheets?
No, honestly.
Right?
No. And
so absolutely, like family, like we're always going to have a difference in opinion with our family.
Yeah.
Like we can love our family. We can respect our family's opinions, but by no means are we required to allow our family's opinions into our space and kind of infiltrate us and take our own opinion away from us.
Yeah, and I think the thing is too is you should in those moments I think reflect, look inside yourself and go, well, what do I want my child to be? Do I want them to be only a part of me and in a sense taking away their responsibility, in a sense taking away their power, or do I want them to be their own individual who makes decisions for themselves, who does things for themselves?
Right.
And I think if you honestly look at that in an objective sense, I think you would want a person that you help raise to be their own person.
If you love them.
You know what I'm saying? No,
if you love them.
Yes, but I think most people would agree in that sense that that's what you want for them. And I think if you're not doing that otherwise, I would evaluate that a bit. You know what I mean?
You would certainly question how much they value the relationship with their child.
Yes. You know what I mean?
If we build a robot, right? If we build a machine, we can expect that machine to always abide by us. It's an object, really.
No emotion.
Right, no emotion, no consciousness. It's just a machine.
Yeah.
That's great. But a human being is not a machine.
No.
So we cannot expect a human being to function like a machine. And if a parent is expecting that child to obey commands, and if the child becomes self-aware, almost like the robot becomes aware of itself and starts to develop its own programming, right, and go against the master, if we truly love our creation, our child, we will say, okay, I want to experience you as an individual, not for who I want you to be, which is a version of me.
Yes.
And that is where true unconditional love comes,
yes.
In terms of parenting.
Yeah.
The issue that can happen sometimes is I think parents don't know how to just trust. Trust that the baby bird leaving the nest will come back.
Yeah.
Also, I think that says a lot about maybe where the parents might feel they're lacking. If they feel that they haven't lived up to their potential as a parent, there's going to be this guilt.
Yeah.
Of like, maybe I don't deserve that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll give a perfect example. Like, my father was in the hospital. Right? He had a really serious a blood clot. And he was in the hospital, really life-threatening, et cetera, et cetera. I had a strained relationship with my father, as you know.
Yeah.
And, of course, I showed up to the hospital, right? My father was surprised. He was like, oh, my God, like, thank you so much for coming. Like, he thanked me profusely. And I'm saying, I'm like, I just, like, the whole ride home that day, I was like, why would my father be shocked that I showed up?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, he's not feeling so good about who he was as a parent. Like, here this man
he's reflecting,
here this man is on the brink of death. I mean, this is a really serious thing, right? And in that moment, maybe he felt that he wasn't worthy of receiving love from his child, because he knows that like this conversation is very personal to me, because my father really tried to kind of form me and like live vicariously
kind of, I think that's
me.
Maybe where like that robot sort of example kind of comes from.
Totally.
You understand, you relate to it.
It's very personal to me.
Yeah.
And so now I become self-aware and I make a decision of I'm going to still love you unconditionally, Dad. I'm not going to let you program me. So I'm going to keep you at a distance, like at a really strong distance, and set many, many boundaries. But if you're on the brink of death, I love you unconditionally. I'm going to come see you.
Because you're your own individual.
Correct. Because and that was my choice.
Yes, because you're separate from him and you're making your own decisions.
Correct.
And I think bringing it back, and I really love this topic, but I really kind of want to bring it back a little bit, is that kind of bring it back to the idea of responsibility, you know what I mean? And I think that's what we were talking about, is that reflection, you know what I mean? Honestly, ask yourself if you're doing all you can for yourself right now, you know what I mean? Just with responsibility and with everything. It's very easy to sit around and play video games all day. Trust me, I did it for a few days there during the beginning of this quarantine. And I even looked at you at one point and I was like, I know sooner rather than later I'm going to get really sick of this and just have a feeling in my gut and go, God, I need to do more than this. I need to put more responsibility on myself here and get back to what I want to do with my life. You know what I mean? And I think, like I was saying earlier, more than anything right now, if you have something you want to do, fucking do it. Because right now is the time. Set a goal and look at yourself and go, what could I do to help me push towards that goal more than anything? Even with me, where... Look, I'm a barber right now, and barbers are not working. You're a barber too, so we both struggle with this a little bit right now, just with money and everything. But I think everybody feels that too. Sure. I've set goals, and I've looked at myself, and I go, what is the best way in order to achieve these goals? You know what I mean? And so I believe heavily in the idea of manifestation. So every single day, I'm writing a page full of manifestations about what I want, about what I think I deserve, and what I want. And even just these past few days and these past weeks, my perception has changed. You know what I mean? How I look at life, the opportunities towards things, just the way in which I see things, I've looked at it differently. And I've looked at it with a more of I guess an initiative mindset, where I think if I take certain steps and I do certain actions, it's going to suck right now, right in the immediate, but I know in the long run it's going to help me more. Because I've looked at my values and I go, this is what I want. This is what I need, and this is what I'm going to do in order to get those things. You know what I mean? Nobody likes to work out. Nobody likes to get up and do what is known as responsibility. But if you honestly want what you want out of life, fucking go out there and get it, man. That's Jocko Williams. But, like, do it. You know what I mean? There's no other better action than taking action itself.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So, you know what I mean? And I think you even felt that during, like, this quarantine, too, at certain points, so.
Absolutely. You know, I love how you kind of said you had this moment, like, in the midst of your video gaming where you were just like, there's going to get to a point where I'm going to get sick of this. Which, like, I commend you for your self-awareness, because, like, that is, like, so cool. You know how many people, like, just have no ability to do that? And, like, I'm kind of one of them. You know, I'll do something for, like, a really long time, and it takes me about, like, a year to be like, maybe there's something wrong with this behavior, right? It's like, I've been dealing with this for a year, and I still haven't gotten what I wanted.
Yeah.
Maybe I should change something,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
So, just, like, absolutely. There gets to a point where it's like, you want what you want so bad that you will literally allow yourself to suffer until you reach that breaking point.
Yep.
And that breaking point's a beautiful thing. I talk about that a lot.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, is like that breaking point is transformative. That's the moment where we're so sick of our own shit that we're like, okay, I'm doing something about it. I'm not gonna ask anybody. I'm not gonna ask for permission. I'm not waiting for mom and dad. This is it. I'm propelling forward no matter what.
You're taking responsibility. You're taking responsibility and you're going, fuck it, I'm gonna do this for me because this is what I want. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like hitting rock bottom.
Yeah.
You know? And when you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up.
Yes.
And when you really want something authentically, because there's a difference. Like, we can want something out of fear. Like, a lot of people, they want money, but they don't value money. They want money because they feel lack in their own life, and they want money to compensate for that. Versus somebody who really values money, forms a bond with it, a relationship with it, understands the ebbing and flowing of money in and out of their life, and genuinely wants it because they feel it will enrich them in some way. So there's like, if you really want something and it aligns with your values, absolutely, you'll get it eventually.
Yeah.
And responsibility is the way to do it.
Oh yeah, you know what I mean?
And identifying your values, right? Like we talked about earlier.
Discipline too, I think, is part of that. You know what I mean? If you're disciplined enough, I think, and you look at your responsibilities and your values, then I think then you start to kind of create this formula in which to actually get to where you want to be. You know what I mean? Because if you have discipline, then you've created freedom. Because if you can stick to that, then slowly and surely, this consistency, you'll keep chugging along, keep going and going and going until you recognize, holy crap, I did it. You know what I mean? But it's always kind of setting that goal and keep going. You know what I mean? Keep pushing for the next thing, but also at like the same time reflecting. You know what I mean? It's a balance towards everything. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to keep going without any thought and without any sort of gratitude towards yourself. Right. You know? But at like the same time, you want to be able to still feel as though you can obtain more and you can keep going, you can get better. Definitely. You know what I mean? So it's a balance, I think, in everything. So
balance is super important. This conversation is super important. I think overall, like conclusively, this pandemic really needs to be maybe talked about in more of an abundance mindset over a fear mindset. Yeah. Where we need to be talking about the blessings that this pandemic has brought us and the opportunity it has presented to us. Yeah, I agree. And I know, like, I'm going to keep growing. I know you and I will probably just keep growing, you know? I mean, we got, here in New York, they said, like, June 6th.
They keep pushing it back, too. We just don't know, honestly. I know, June 6th. And so it's like, well, could we sit here and continue to wallow? Or could we just really take this by the reins and say, okay, what are we going to do for the next 4 weeks? Yes. Right? Make it happen. Yes. Like set goals for ourselves maybe, and then just keep one day at a time. You know, I think also my issue too sometimes is I'm thinking ahead. I'm thinking, well, after the pandemic. We don't know when after the pandemic is. Yeah. I think we all need to I need to get that in my head. No, I agree. Right? Where it's like, I don't know when the pandemic's going to end. I need to stop theorizing. Yes. And start focusing on right now. Yeah, absolutely. And be like, okay, this could be 4 weeks. This could be a year. This could be 2 years. I've heard a million different things. So what am I going to do right now? Yeah, and that kind of comes back to letting go. You know what I mean? We're just flowing with it. And I think the one thing that I think, as much as we all our actions might show differently, but we want is to know is to come out of this pandemic better than maybe where we were at before, at least internally. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
then externally have goals in order to actually achieve some sort of internal goals while at the same time.
Sure.
Because you can actually help both work for you. You know what I mean? If internally you want to grow more, this is the perfect time to do it. But if externally you want to also help yourself internally, set those goals, you know what I mean? And figure it out. And ask yourself internally if you truly want that.
And if you're ready for it.
Yeah.
See, I think, too, like, we'll set goals for ourselves. Like, well, after this pandemic, I'm going to, go on vacation or I'm going to buy a new car. But it's like, you got car money?
Yeah, honest.
You got vacation money?
If you...
Like, and if you do, can you trust yourself to spend that money wisely?
Yes.
Can you trust yourself after you've spent this money on that car to treat it in the way that it deserves so that it will continue to flourish in your presence?
And that comes back to discipline, right?
Yes,
you know what I mean? It's creating that lifestyle for yourself to go, well, I want this. I do. It really resonates with me that I feel like I want this. So create a life for yourself in which for you to be able to get it. You know what I'm saying? Because anybody can say, yeah, I want $1 million. Well, then how the fuck are you going to get $1 million sitting on your ass? No. You have to put a plan. You have to put it into theory and then put it into action.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, develop a plan.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? And then you also have to have the mindset for it, too, that it is going to happen. It will happen. This is what I'm going to do in order for it to happen. And it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen the day after. It's going to take time and hard work. You know what I'm
really
saying?
Important.
And I think that's the most important thing is, too, is that people look at other people on Instagram even these days and they see them with an abundance and they think, man, I want that. I want to do all those things. Well, do you really want it or do you just want where that guy is already? Because if you really want it, you have to get up every day and work for it. You need to get up every day and look at yourself in the mirror and go, am I doing everything I can in order to obtain that goal?
I almost love Instagram influencers like that because I'd say, like, at least in my experience, at least the ones I follow, will a lot of the time give their audience their, like, daily routine.
Yeah.
Right? Like they see the fan base and they're like, oh, everyone loves me. And they're like, okay, well, let these people know what I do
Here's
every day.
Here's the formula.
Okay.
Yep.
Here it is, right?
Yeah.
It's right there, right? No smoke, no mirrors.
Yep.
It's like, okay, so I get up at 4 a.m. every morning. I don't drink. I don't party. I have, $500 in my savings account by the end of the week, every week.
Yep.
Right? And then people look at that and they're like, oh, maybe I don't want that.
Yeah.
Maybe I actually... Or maybe they do want it, but they don't want to take the responsibility for it. In which case, then you gotta look elsewhere. Because there's no way of getting around that.
Yeah.
I think people expect that they're gonna find like a cheat code or a loophole, and there's none.
You wanna know what the thing is too? What I've noticed is that I've been a sucker to that. Where I'm like, man, I really want that, so I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna do exactly what they do. But you can't do that either. Yeah, you ever seen an alcoholic just try and quit drinking like that?
Yes, it doesn't normally go well.
It never works out.
If you try to quit alcoholism,
cold turkey,
you can actually die from that.
Yes.
Right? Your body goes into shock because you failed to develop that plan. Absolutely. You thought you were better than it, right?
Yes.
Humble yourself.
You take one step at a time in order to get to that. You know what I mean? And what I've noticed too is that the plan doesn't actually have to be exactly the same. You know what I mean? It can be a version of your own plan that you've taken from that plan and go, okay, I like what they did here, but at the same time, I'm going to take certain things from what they did, but I'm also going to do my own thing. Because I think that's living authentically too, is deciding for yourself, okay, I like what they're doing, but at the same time, I want to do me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But still creating that life for yourself. And it's just doing it one day at a time, trying to make each day better than the last one. You
Make it personal.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Because if you're constantly living off another person's idea, that's only gonna last for so long.
Definitely. Because it's not yours.
Yes, you need it to resonate with you.
Right.
I love, and I've told you this before. Jocko Williams said it best. Is in one of his latest podcasts, he goes, "The commander can tell the soldier what to do, but he can bark orders at him every single time. But if the soldier doesn't have any sort of feeling towards it, if he doesn't actually get in context towards why he's doing it, the soldier's going to question him at one point. You know, I mean, you could scream at the soldier, get up at 4 a.m. every morning. And the soldier, for like 2 to 3 days, will go, okay, absolutely. But on that 4th day, he's going to be like, why am I doing this?
Right.
What's the point? Why am I just listening to you blindly?
It's the robot becoming self-aware.
Yes. Exactly. So when you ask yourself, or when you do these things, ask yourself why you're doing them. Make sure that there's a goal in mind and that there's a reason for it. Look, and be honest with yourself. Look, I'll be even honest here. I love working out absolutely for the health, for this, for that. But I love aesthetically pleasing too. I love looking at myself in the mirror and being like, damn, I look good.
Right.
And that's honest.
That honesty.
100%.
And is there anything really wrong with that, right?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. You know
I think a lot of people work out to look good.
Yes.
I know I do.
Yeah.
I want a fat ass. If I want a fat ass, I'm not going to get that by not doing, like, you know,
Absolutely.
squats, right?
Yes.
Like, I got to do squats.
Yes.
You know, that's it.
Yeah,
Like,
honestly. So just be honest with yourself more than anything when you
Absolutely.
create goals. Because if you can't bullshit yourself at the end of the day.
No, you can't.
So just be honest with yourself, set those goals, and fucking smash it. You know what I mean?
Honestly.
And there's so many ways in which you can look at things nowadays. We have so many outlets for these things. You know what I mean? So many people are trying to inspire others nowadays. Take their advice, man. You know what I mean? And if you don't fully align with it, take what you do align with and keep going. You know what I mean? Bruce Lee said it best, is that when he was deciding from all these martial arts, right? He would take what worked for him and then leave out the rest.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? He would adapt. He wouldn't take it all in fully and go, this is the best way. No, he would take in everything.
It sounds like he didn't give up his power when people told him what to do or gave him advice.
That's beautiful.
He empowered himself.
Yeah.
And allowed parts of that person in, right? He's kind of like the master of himself. Bruce Lee is absolutely a master, right?
Yeah.
Very self-contained in his power. So he kind of gets to decide what he's going to let in or not.
Yes.
Now, Bruce Lee was a smart man.
And
really smart.
I think in a way, like what you're saying too, is when like he would let certain people in, he'll let people who aligned with his goals come in. You know what I mean? He let people who he knew, if anything, would help him more obtain what he needed to get to.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you let certain friends in and certain people in and you honestly take a look at them and you go, I don't know if this friend is best for my growth. I don't know if this friend is best for this or best for that. You know what I mean? Maybe you've outgrown them. Maybe you guys are at just different parts of your life. You know what I mean? Take an honest look at who you're hanging around with and go, are they best for me at this moment? Doesn't mean that they always will be. Maybe they'll grow and maybe you guys will reconnect at one point and your goals will align with theirs, and guess what? That friendship might be rekindled. But if you are honest about your growth, if you honestly want to push towards those goals, check your friends and check who you are and see if that aligns. You know what I mean? I had a lot of friends even back in high school I loved smoking weed with. I did. It was the thing that we did. It's what we identified with at the time. But I look back at that as a person who doesn't really smoke that much weed now, if any at all, and I go, well, I don't think I would hang out with those friends anymore, not because they're bad guys or anything like that, but just because their values and my values don't align. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to be honest with yourself here. You know what I mean? And it might be hard, but in the long run, you're going to look back at that and go, I did what was best for me. Right. You know what I mean? I set myself up to go, I want to succeed here. You know what I mean? I want to do something in which that might be different from what they're trying to do. Right. So at the end of the day, it's a hard decision, but it's a decision that you need to make.
For you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're choosing you.
Yeah.
And that's empowering.
Yeah.
So empowering.
We're coming up on 40. Well, we are actually at the 45th minute here. And I think I kind of got out everything I needed to say. Did you want to add anything else? Kind of.
I think that the message overall that I think you and I really resonate with is really looking at this pandemic as an opportunity to grow.
Yes.
And hopefully that's something we can all do. And in turn, we'll create a better world that way.
I agree.
You know, I think deep down, humanity just wants to see humanity thriving. And in order to do that, there's a quote. I don't even know who said it. It was just on Instagram. It was one of those kind of inspirational posts. And maybe I'll just end on that note, which is, in order to create a better world, we must first create a better version of ourselves. And then in turn, we will create a better world.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Let's do that.
I agree. All right, guys. This is JayKay Talk, episode 1. It was awesome doing it.